Welcome to this month's ITSM TV special feature. This month we're looking at the ITSM vendor market with the Service Desk and IT Support Show just approaching. And we got together a number of experienced vendors from the market to discuss how they see the market now and in future. I'm joined in the studio today by three venerable ITSM professionals who've been around the market for some time, and we're going to have a chat about the current state of the ITSM market. I'm joined by Graham Brown from Front Range. Welcome.
Morning, Barclay.
Tony Probert from Sherwell. Welcome,
Hi,
Tony. And Don Page of Marvel. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're here to talk about the current state of the market. We've got the SEDIT show coming up in a few weeks' time. I'm sure you're all looking forward to that. What are we seeing in the market at the moment? From a vendor's perspective, and you guys are all very much dealing with the sales cycle every day and talking to lots of customers. What are we seeing at the moment that's maybe new or different to the way things were, I don't know, a year or two back? Tony, do you want to kick us off on that?
I think we're seeing a lot more end user involvement in the solution that's being selected for organisations these days. So there's a different criteria being placed on the solution that's, that organisations are looking to acquire, I think.
And are they involved in the sales process as well as the project side of it?
Yeah, we're certainly finding them as part of the evaluation process and content coming into RFPs as a result. So yeah, they certainly are getting involved in the process. And I think a recent Gartner report that I saw is showing that end users have increasingly more buying power when actually looking for these types of solutions.
Okay, so perhaps bypassing the IT organisation.
Well, working more with them, but they're not bypassing, but they have much more of an influence on what's actually going to be acquired at the end of the day.
Don, are you seeing a similar trend?
I think a problem I have with that is there's certainly a lot of things people are after, but most of it's just bullshit in actual fact. I mean, a lot of the bullshit I'm seeing is the confusion in the industry. The marketeer people are saying you need this, you need that. And the thing is, the business relies on IT to help them make informed choices. And at the moment, there's several hype curves at the moment, which I think is making it very challenging for people.
So those hype curves.
Yeah.
What sort of hype curves are you talking?
Social media is a classic example. Since when has anyone ever thought of IT guys as being social? They've got poor communication skills generally, Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to social media.
Yeah.
I'll just say at this moment, other types of shit are available. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Graham, what are you seeing in the market at the moment? How is that changing? Is it stable? Are you talking to more end users?
I'd agree with Tony to the extent that I think you're seeing a lot more folk from the end user community getting involved, both having a stake in the requirement side of things, also from the perspective of actually requiring a formal business case, and therefore there being a lot more hoops for folk in the IT community to jump through, and perhaps that's something they've not been accustomed to so much in the past.
We've reached a stage where things like corporate governance and accountability has to take over. I think we should take it out of the hands of the boys and actually do it properly. Yeah, we're still not adopting. We're actually talking about all these technologies constantly, but we're not talking about governance, compliance, adoption of industry standards. We're hearing things about let people make their own decisions. Let's do cloud something, cloud the other. We're in the business to deliver IT services to the business to make sure they're available when the business actually needs them.
How can you do that as a vendor? I mean, it's hard enough from a consulting point of view to have that kind of influence, but as a vendor going in, selling a piece of software and some services and an implementation based on what people are looking for, but that you've got to talk to them about governance and other stuff. I mean, what do we think of that? How do we approach
to a degree, I disagree with Don in terms of the focus on IT. Yeah. We're very much, it's take away IT, it's service management. And I think one of the biggest transitions that's going to happen in our industry, and it's happening now, but we'll see it escalate over the coming years, is the fact that we're going to transition away from something's broken, can you fix it, to I need, can you do? And it's very much about the delivery of business service management. It's adding value to an organisation.
People have been doing that for years, Tony. It's not
Have they
new.
then gone?
It's
Have
not
they?
new. It's what we're there for, isn't it?
Yeah, but the technology to enable that, to facilitate that, hasn't really been available.
No, it hasn't been available by a lot of the vendors. It's actually been a technology-driven approach.
But I think also that's a function of the people who are buying. I mean, for much of the time, I think for lots of folk, the decisions have been made around the technology that they buy and the vendors that they partner with, based purely on internal IT considerations rather than necessarily the broader business ones. And I do, back to Tony's point earlier about the fact that I think business people are getting involved more, I think that's a good sign for us as an industry, because it does mean that we've got a better chance of actually engaging also with the people who are going to be the ultimate consumers of what we provide and what we support, the technology, the underpinning technology that we use to support these guys.
A classic example of that is, I get a tender, it has 300 questions of do you do this, do you that. They're all technology-driven questions. There's nothing about outcomes. There's nothing about what will this deliver to a business. What is, because unless they've got outcomes, how can they measure it, whether it's an actual success or not?
Yeah.
And
you're right. You can get pages and pages and pages of stuff relating to the specific technology requirements. Nothing about the business pains. And even when you try and encourage people to talk about the business pains, frequently they can't elicit them particularly well. And I think that's something that we can all do as vendors, is to help folk with that sort of side of things.
Just moving on a little bit, we mentioned earlier hypes and social media. I just wondered from each of you what your take was on the way that those things are coming in. We've got social media, we've got gamification and other things that are kind of creeping up on us. Are we taking those seriously? Do we think they're important? Is it just another hype that we need to deal with then move on quickly?
No, I think it's important because people in their everyday lives are using technology in different ways for different things. And if they're using it in their everyday life, why aren't they going to want to use it in order to do business? As long as there's a business justification, a business value that can show that it can add value to an organisation, then people are going to want to go down that route. So we can't ignore the fact that people have got mobile phones, mobile devices, working from home, want information in different ways at different times on different devices. We can't ignore that. So we have to deliver solutions that's capable of meeting that requirement moving forward.
I think mobility is one of the biggest factors that's likely to affect IT service in the widest sense from now onwards. Tony's absolutely right in that people are going to expect to use mobile devices in all their guises and also different locations for working to a far greater extent from now onwards than perhaps they have. And it's our challenge to deal with that as an industry, and we've spent the last 20 years trying to lock everything down and stop everybody from changing it, and for the future that's an utter impossibility if we're going to expect to support the end user communities.
What about just actual current uses of, for example, social media with ITSM tools?
What we've seen, for example, there's a huge uptake in the higher education area for that as a requirement, because they are serving communities of young people whose probably first means of communication is through their smartphone and Twitter. Email to them is becoming old kind of sort of legacy technology. So they want to be able to communicate more easily using those tools that their people are used to using every day. So we're definitely seeing a take up in that.
I think that's right in small pockets at the moment, but I think to an extent we're in danger, I think, as an industry of treating social media as the greatest next big thing. And it'll certainly come, and as people move into the world of work who are accustomed to those forms of communication, it's going to be much more of a requirement. But as a major part of what people are looking for today, I think as an industry we're perhaps in danger of over-egging it and assuming that everybody needs social media today when...
Definitely.
I'm not saying that everybody needs it. I'm just saying it's something I can't ignore. I mean, it's like chat. Just about every RFP that we now see says, do you have chat capability? And I'm still struggling to, in some ways, to understand, well, why do you want chat?
That's okay if you're actually tracking it and you actually know, because, the actual problem I personally have with social media itself is it depends on the type of organisation. If you're in a college, you can blast stuff around. But if you're in a financial institution and you're tweeting around, "Oh, the share price has dropped like that." It can have a major impact on the business.
Absolutely, Don.
You know,
I
so
agree
we
with
have
you.
to detach social media from, you know, from students and younger kids twitting in a way to actually using it as a sort of formal business tool.
CIDITS is coming in a few weeks' time. Just like to get from each of you your perspective on that show and what you'd expect out of it. I mean, given it's probably the biggest exhibition outside of the US.
For us to engage with our customers, it's one of the best, single best opportunities where we can get a whole bunch of them in one place at one time and talk to them about what they think of us, what they think about what they expect from us. So that's a terrific opportunity. It's a great chance for us to talk to other folk in the industry and get a sense of where they think the world is going in an environment which is actually quite conducive to that. And it's a great chance for us to test our new ideas with people who we don't know and people who we might wish to become customers of ours.
But it's also about the ability to add value to the market, to add content to the market. It's not just about we've got a great new widget in our tool. It's how can we engage people, engage with people in a meaningful way about what their needs are, what their requirements are, not just now, but in the future.
Could we just round up there? I mean, I know you mentioned that we're all old. We probably need to go and get our Horlicks soon. Just in summary, just each of you can just give me a quick 30 seconds on what you'd like to see in the market going forward in the next couple of years and what your expectations are. Graham?
I'd like to see people who are looking for technology making sure they make the best use of the vendors. I think in many cases we have terrific expertise that we can bring to people looking to buy these sorts of technologies. I don't think always they allow us to engage to the extent that they can get the most out of all of us, out of the community as a whole. And I think if people open their eyes a little and take advantage of the great deal of collection of expertise that they've got around the vendor market space, then they can make a great deal more of an informed decision and therefore end up with a better outcome. And in fact to keep us engaged over the longer term rather than assuming that they can buy a set of technology and that it will solve their needs just by virtue of taking it on. We all know that's not true.
Okay, thank you. Don, what would you like to see in the market in the next few years?
What I'd like to see, that's a hard one actually for me. I think I'd like to see business invest more in its staff, because it's always saying do things faster, cheaper, more, cutting its costs. But it needs to invest in its staff more and more and more. Because at the end of the day, no matter good service in any shape or form is delivered by the people it employs. And assuming that just buying the latest technology will suddenly heal things, they're dreaming.
Okay.
So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see adoption of governance and standards across the board.
Okay, thank you. Sage stuff. Tony?
I guess one of the biggest frustrations we probably all see as vendors that when we're trying to engage with organisations and is having to deal with RFIs and RFPs and documentation that are almost completely inappropriate to the solution that actually they need or they want. As vendors we're having to fight uphill battles through documentation that is so diverse, has no standard, has no continuity, that in a lot of ways those things are there to help, really the consultancy organisations, or consultants actually prepare very complex documents.
I will pick you up on that point. The SDI several years ago tried to actually engage all the vendors in order to produce a standard RFA document, and hardly any of the vendors wanted to actually engage in that.
Yeah, it was called the Customer Technology Association.
Yeah, okay.
Perhaps it's about time we resurrected that.
I wasn't involved in that process, but I think there needs to be a much better framework rather than discrete, unique documents for every single requirement that comes out.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of time, doesn't it?
It does, on both sides. And actually, from a customer's perspective, can be really detrimental to the solution that they end up with.
Okay, I think we need to leave it there. Thanks very much, Graham, Tony and Don. Very interesting discussion. And of course, you'll all be at CIDITS.
Absolutely.
With your various stands and presentations. So we look forward to see you all there. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.